What's up, guys and girls? Today we're doing something that I've been waiting to do for a while. I have new gauge overlays from the one and only Tom Clark at SinisBuilt. Tom made these for me, oh man, it's probably been a year and a half, at least a year and a half ago. I just haven't I haven't had the chance to take it apart and replace. So we're going to get into that today. I've never done this before, so I'm going to try to show you as much as I can. I've actually never taken one of these gauge clusters apart before, so this is a new one on me, and if you're watching this, it's probably a new one on you. Or you're sitting there yelling at the screen, it's like, don't do it that way, you moron. But anyway, let's start taking this thing apart. And now I'm looking at it, I'm probably going to repaint the needles, which I'm supposed to do that before I do those. So I'm trying to decide what color I want to paint the needles. So I'm not sure if they should be orange anymore. But anyway, I'll think about it. But let's start taking this thing apart right now. Alright, so here's what it looks like. Looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws to take out. They are 1/4 inch. I'm just using a nut driver here. And this is old. If you're working on one like me, this is from an 85. This is old plastic, so you want to be careful. It may be brittle. Alright, all the screws are out. Let's just see if this thing just pops apart. Oh, it just lifts right off. Nice. Came right off. Of course, I'll clean this out, and I'll clean this up. If it doesn't clamp too well, I may run down to MPD and get a new crystal for it. Yeah, I definitely think I'm going to change out or repaint these needles, because this one's bad, if you guys can see that. That one's really faded. That one's faded a little bit, and these, the top sides, are faded. So what color should I do them in is the question. I'll get back to you in just a second. Before we start anything, these are dusty down here. So I'm going to clean it out. Just trying to get these good and clean before we put the overlays on, because as with anything, if you're going to put a sticker on it, it needs to be clean, or the dust will show through most of the time. You may blow some of this out too, like it's got some junk done in there. We don't want any of that stuff coming out as we're putting it back together. So I'm going to go ahead and blow it out. And then I'll clean these gauges, and then we'll decide what color to paint the needles. So I'm just wiping this out easy, and especially around the needles you want to be really delicate, because they are seriously delicate. You don't want to break one of your gauges, especially if they all work. And it says the instructions, sometimes you can see the letters behind it on that, so you can wet sand it if you want, but there's no going back if you do that to wet sand these down. I think I'm going to go without wet sanding. I mean, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I don't think you'll be able to see it that much, but if I don't like it, can always take it off and redo it. So let's move on to the next step. So let's paint the needles, and then we'll go from there. I'm just going to run a little piece of tape down behind here. So I don't mess up the factory gauges before I start painting. Okay, I've got the needles painted. I don't know if you can really see them because they're dark. They'll be visible once we have the overlays on there. So the only thing you have to cut is the high beam right there. So we're going to do them wet. Actually, I put a little water in my spray bottle. Alright, so what you need is a squeegee with fabric on it. Or if you have a squeegee, which you can get these off Amazon. If you don't have one, you can wrap just a microfiber around it, but I've got one with the fabric on it. So, I guess it's time to get started. Need my glasses. I don't know which one would be easy to start with. I guess I'll start with a small one. So it's just a peel and a little peel, a little spray. This is water with a little bit of soap in it. So we get it down over the gauge, kind of just buckle it. Careful not to break your gauges. I'm just going to line it up. I'm just going to squeegee it a little bit. Start from the middle out, of course. I think on these small ones it might be easier to use your finger. If you use a wrap glove too, I have one of those, but I didn't grab it. I'll soak up some of this water. It'll be easier with one of these little chiselers. Put a rag on this one. Alright, that wasn't too bad. Of course, you want to have clean hands and a clean work area. so you don't get dust underneath it or anything. These holes are cut perfectly to size. So you just line that up and just start squeegeeing it out. Oh man, these are looking good. Alright. Fuel is next. As you can see too, this is not too hard. Like, if you weren't repainting the needles, you could probably do this in an hour or so. Heat them as well, but just don't overheat your gauge with a heat gun. It doesn't look like you need to at all, unless, I mean, the only thing I could say, if it's super cold or something, you might need to, but it is summertime here right now, so sorry guys, my battery went dead. But I got that one on. So we're going to put the, here's what we're looking like so far. We're going to put the RPM on, or the tack on. This is the one you have to cut, but we'll get to that in a minute. I am going to pull this screw out of the top here, or at least loosen it and pop this down over it. I'm just going to go ahead and pull it out. Make sure you got all your edges pushed down nice. I think that's it. It did stretch a little bit right here in the middle. I stretched it over that needle. It's laying down pretty nice though. May need just a little bit of heat right there, just to smooth that out. You saw there, I just barely tapped it with a flame, which you can use a heat gun too. I just had that laying there, so. Just go down and make sure you get it all pressed out. Wipe up any excess water. We're almost ready to go back together. It says that on the instructions to let it sit for 24 hours at room temperature. When you're putting the screw back in though, don't over tighten it, because if you tighten it down too tight, it will grab the vinyl and twist it. And then you have a big mess. But here we go. Look at that. So nice. And as you can see here, if you have like an 85 or 86, well actually 84 to 86, whatever it is, you know it stops at 85 here, but the needle can go on down. So he's added the extra numbers for me by request. So he can do whatever on them you want. Put the name of your car, different colors, just about anything you could possibly imagine. Alright, so now we're going to cut this high beam hole out. What you want to do here is make sure you have a brand new blade. So I got a brand new knife here I'm going to use. If you're using a snap off, make sure it's a brand new. Snap it off and don't just barely get your blade sticking out. Push it down and you can see where the edges are. And then you can also put extra light on it too. It kind of want to give me a little extra light here. Extra light too. I just saw a bubble. I need to get out. Alright, so we just cut along the edge. Just take your time. Now I'm cutting it a little shallow now. Go back in and clean it up. After I get this out of the way where I can see a little better. So now I'll go in and clean these edges up a little bit. If you can't see exactly where your corners is, just cut it down the middle, and then go to the corner on each side, and then get it out. Alright, all done. I'm going to let it sit, and then we'll clean the crystal up, put it back on, put it back in the car. So as you can see, this isn't real hard. The hardest thing is getting it out of the car, and the biggest thing there is the speedometer cable, because you really can't get, but what you do, it's hard to, I can't video where you can see it. There's a plastic thing on the back of the speedometer, and all you do is push it. There's like you'll feel two ridges on it. Push those ridges, push them in towards it. I used to think you should squeeze it, but you don't. You just push it to the side and it pops right off. Then other than that, you have two, on an 85 you have a connector there, and I had two extra lights right here. Piece of cake to take it out. While I've got it out, I'm going to go ahead and change these bulbs to LEDs, because it just looks cooler. I did it in the Mustang, and it brightens it up and makes everything look better, more modern, things like that. If you can see that number, it is X0012SHE31 JDM A-Star super bright chipset white LED bulbs. I got these off Amazon. They fit right in, and you're good to go. But guys, thanks for watching. I'm gonna let this cure, and get it put back together, and then on to the next project. I decided to go ahead and change the crystal. I was looking at it, and it is scratched, but the biggest thing is there's like dust and stuff down here, so I was gonna pull it off anyway. And I'm not too far from MPD, so I just ran to MPD and grabbed one. So I'm just going to go ahead and replace that. So let's do that. I think looks like this plastic's kind of melted on there. So I'll get my soldering iron out and break these loose. Then we'll clean this all out real good, and then put the new one on, put it back together, and then we'll be done. Thanks for sticking around watching this. Let's get to it. Aha, it just threads. Just push it in, grab a hold of it. Just unthread it, and there is a spring in here, so be ready. Yep, just screws right out. Put that there. Our soldering iron is hot. So, what you're going to do is just kind of pry up on it a little bit and heat the plastic. One in the middle here. There it goes. It popped right up. Awesome. I guess we'll have to transfer our little rubber stops here too. But you can see how scratched it is. I hope you can see that, but it's pretty bad. We'll turn the soldering off for a minute. Alright, so we'll get this cleaned out. You can see there's just dust and junk all in there. So we'll get that all cleaned out without scratching it, because I don't want to have to repaint this if I don't have to. Put this back together, get it nice and clean before we put it back together.